All right, everyone, we're going to move on now to overtime pay. Now, overtime pay is something that happens quite often when a person is paid an hourly rate. Now, for example, it's quite often to base this off of a 40-hour work week. So as you can see in the first sentence here, a full-time job is often considered a 40-hour work week. So if you are paid hourly, they'd say, well, you're going to work 40 hours this week. And they will say to you, this is how much you earn an hour. So I'll just write this down here. I mean, if you were to work 40 hours a week and you make $20 an hour, well, very simply, you would just multiply these together and you could figure out how much money that you make each week. And, it's a very simple calculation. You would make $800 for that week. Now, what happens if you work more than full-time or more than 40 hours? What happens then is you are often given an overtime rate. Now, this could be written as, now we're looking down in the second paragraph. This is often paid to you at 1.5 times your regular wage, or double time. Now, so basically, why is this a good deal? Well, if you work beyond full-time or beyond, let's say, your 40 hours, your rate of pay increases. And what I mean by that, I'll keep the math here very simple. I mean, that's like saying you're paid, let's say, $20 an hour. Well, if you were to be paid double time, that means that all of a sudden your rate of pay would go to $40 an hour. Now, this, of course, this is an example, but it shows you that all of a sudden your rate of pay for each hour worked really, really increases. Now, it should be said here, though, that typically we say that a regular work week is 40 hours. That doesn't always mean that that's what, like some places might say, like in our first example here, that all of a sudden 37 and a half hours is full-time and beyond that is overtime. So you're going to have to read the question very, very carefully, but on a standard basis, we say that 40 hours is a typical work week. And if you work beyond that amount of hours, you will be into overtime hours where you will get an increased hourly rate. Now, I'm going to show you two examples. One here is just based off of, the example given to you, and then I'll do one for you. So you have this person, so we're looking at our first example, and this person earns $15.82 an hour, and he works 37.5 hours each week. So there you go. So here's the rate of pay. Okay, so there's your rate of pay. And here is what they consider full-time. So this person works between 0 and 37.5 hours. They make $15.82 an hour. If you read the next sentence, it says this person is paid time and a half for any hours over 37 and a half. And it looks in the third sentence there, this person works 42.25 hours during 1 week. How much will he earn? Now, I know you can read this, but I thought what I might do is just kind of show you how I would do this. I'm going to go regular, and then I kind of put a separator and I go overtime. And you may like this if you want. So first of all, we know that this person, I'll kind of bring this down here, sorry. This person makes $15.82 per hour as an hourly rate, and that is for the regular work hours. Now this person worked 42.25 hours. You have to ask yourself, did this person work 37.5? Well, of course. If they worked 42.25, they worked 37.5. So let's figure out the regular pay. So you go 15.82 times 37.5 hours, and let's figure out how much money this person made. And that would give you $593.25. But this person actually went above their full-time hours. So what you have to do is you have to figure out, well, how many overtime hours? And the first step, what you do is you have to go 42.25 subtract the regular hours. And that gives you a total of 4.75 hours. Now this goes back to a previous lesson. You have to be able to figure out your differences in time. So in this case, it was crucial that you can figure out that this person worked 4.75 hours of overtime. Now, we know that's hours of overtime. The other thing you have to figure out is, well, what is your overtime rate? I mean, we know they get 15.82 per hour, but they get more per hour now. And what you want to look for, everyone, is it says, he is paid time and a half for any extra hours. So what you need to do, I'll do this over here on the left. You can see the regular rate of pay was 15.82. All you have to, it says time and a half. That's times 1.5. So 15.82 times 1.5. Let's just figure out exactly what that is per hour. Sorry, my calculator just closed. 15.82 times 1.5. This person all of a sudden, wow, this is great. 23.73 per hour. So that is how much they get paid for their overtime hours. And you see them on the right-hand side, 23.73. So I'm going to go 4.75 times 23.73. Overtime money, this person made $112.72, give or take. So if I ask you how much did this person make altogether, you would add the regular pay and the overtime pay together. And in this case, that gives you $705.97. What I thought it would be important to do, though, is show you one last, I thought to myself, this could be confusing. So what I did is I made up another one here at the bottom. And please remember, this is one of those things where I get it. It's a little bit tricky right now, but the procedure is often repeated. So don't stress too much, okay? So this person here makes $24 an hour for their regular hours, which is considered 40 hours per week. When they go beyond 40 hours a week, they make 1.5 times per hour, and they worked 45 hours total. So again, like I said, let's figure out the regular pay. So that, of course, is pretty straightforward. We're going to go $24 per hour times how many is regular hours? That should be 40 hours. I'll just type that into the calculator here. That gives you $960. So that's how much a person made based on their regular pay. Now, let's figure out our overtime hours. Well, this one's a little bit easier. I mean, I said right to you right here, I said the person worked 45 hours. So we consider 40 hours per week, regular time. So obviously this person worked 5 hours overtime. But now we need to figure out our overtime rate. And our overtime rate is where we take our starting hourly rate. So that's $24 per hour. And it's set again 1.5 times. So times that by 1.5. 24 times 1.5 gives you, wow, $36 an hour, which is awesome. Now, let's figure out our overtime pay. And that's going to be our $36 an hour times how many overtime hours did we work? That was 5. So we'll multiply that together. 36 times 5 is $180. So how do you figure out your final pay? And your final pay, I can't zoom this anymore. Your final pay is going to be a combination of the $960 plus the $180. And that would give you a grand total of $1,140. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this is overly easy. Well, maybe for some of you it is. But what I would ask you to do, though, is can you reproduce the procedure that I am doing? Does it make sense? Does it not? And if it doesn't, you need to speak with your teacher immediately or rewatch this video. And the next way of challenging yourself is, could you redo either of these examples, like, without the answer or my voice or my writing? Keep in mind, though, that once you understand how to calculate overtime pay, it is very repetitive. If you wanted to write down kind of a cheat sheet, I would say to you, you always figure out regular pay first. Then you figure out how many overtime hours you worked. Then you figure out your overtime rate. Then you figure out your overtime pay. And then you find your grand total. So again, it's a repetitive procedure. I will give you a chance to practice, but please speak with your teacher to make sure you're on track. All right, let's move on to some practice.